Welcome to Who Wrote That Up For You, a daily podcast that shines a light on the American justice system and its role in empowering the powerful to take from you. The justice system is the only branch of your government where an individual rather than the collective can make the system act for you. It puts power in the individual's hands, but it's broken and being used against you at a time when you need it most.
And we are live on Who Wrote That Up For You. Today is Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. I'm Sonia Ebron, a co-founder at Courtroom 5.
I'm Deborah Sloan, the other co-founder at Courtroom 5.
We've got a fantastic show lined up today. In a few moments, we will speak with Damian Wilson at TurnSignl. We've got a fantastic traffic stop application that you'll want to hear more about. A little further in the show, we will speak with Magistrate Dwayne Pennant in the 26th District here in North Carolina, and we'll hear a good bit about what magistrate judges do there. Before we move on, I do want to hear from Deborah. What is on your mind today? What is our issue of the day?
Well, in the Judges Gone Wild department, let's talk about a few of them. In a recent case, a judge in New York is accused of pointing a semi-automatic handgun at a defendant in open court. A few years ago in Texas, before a jury brought back a verdict, the judge strolled into the jury room to share that God had told him the defendant was innocent and told him to let the jury know that. And in another Texas case, when the defendant didn't answer a judge's question to his satisfaction, the judge shocked him with 50,000 volts of electricity via a stun belt affixed to his legs. And
All right.
finally, one more. In Tennessee, a traffic judge had a standing offer to cancel your ticket in exchange for sexual favors.
Oh, my. Okay.
These I'm just I was just struck by these because judges and lawyers and the law profession always talk about pro se litigants basically going wild and doing inappropriate things, but they don't talk about people who know what the law is, who know how to be appropriate, who aren't doing those things. And so this is just these are just examples of that.
That's hilarious. You know, you would pick this subject on the day when we have our first
I
judge on
know
the
I
show.
had.
And so I want to be clear that Judge Pennant is not gone wild. He is very sober young man, and we will be happy to chat with him. But you're right. I think I've heard over the years some judges, and we've seen some judges do some bizarre things, even in the cases we've had. So it's I think there's something about, though, unless you're very careful, as our magistrate judge Pennant is today, unless you're very careful about this, that wearing of the robe as you stroll into the courtroom every day. I think there's something about that. You know, you and I as PhDs, and all PhDs know this, we get hooded, we get that robe. And it's really the same robe historically, just, the ancient civilizations, that judge's robe and that academic's robe are one and the same. And I think there's something about it. I'm glad that academics only wear that once a year. I think at graduation, maybe twice a year. Judges have to wear that thing every time they go in the courtroom. And that's that sign of authority. It's that I'm the right one. I'm the one that's going to be right here. I'm the decider, sort of thing. And that must be very seductive in terms of power. And I can see myself, for instance. I'll just speak to myself. I would have to be very careful about some of my behavior, and as most judges are. Let's not defame the whole judiciary here with these stories. Most, most judges are very sober individuals, and so. But I do think there's something about having to wear that robe every day, put that on, and yeah, it gets to your head if you're not careful. So yeah, appreciate you sharing that. I'll be sure to tell Judge Pennant, Magistrate Pennant, that present company is certainly excused from this conversation. But that's fantastic. Anyway, You all know that Who Wrote That Up For You is sponsored by Courtroom 5. At Courtroom 5, we believe the courts belong to the people, in particular to the people who use them. And we, the people, are coming to claim our courts. And so if you're in court without a lawyer, or if you need to sue someone and can't afford legal representation, get yourself over to courtroom5.com. Try our limited services for free. See if we can provide some relief in your situation, and we will be very happy to help you out there. All right, at this time, it is my great pleasure to bring onto the show Damian Wilson at TurnSignl. Damian, how are you today? And thanks for joining. Who Wrote That Up For You?
Deborah, Sonia, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Listen, tell us about TurnSignl. What are you all up to over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So TurnSignl at its core, it's an app on your iPhone or Android device. With one touch of a button, we connect drivers in real time to an attorney in the event that that individual is pulled over or in an accident. We add the physical location of the app user. We serve that up to the geolocation relevant attorneys relative to that practice area need, right? If they're being pulled over, they need to be in touch with the criminal defense attorney. If they're in an accident, they need to be in touch with a personal injury attorney. And very quickly, we can make that connection, help facilitate a positive outcome through the introduction of that attorney in the situation to de-escalate and protect that driver's civil rights, but ultimately get both the driver as well as the officer home safely to their respective families at the end of every day.
It's so important to focus on that mission of getting everybody home safely. So if I've got this app on my phone and I get into an accident or I have a traffic stop by a police officer, like how does it work? Like what happens? I press the button, I guess, on my phone, and then what happens? What's the interaction?
Yeah, so I'll take it step by step. You see the red and blue lights in the rear view mirror. You say, "Hey Siri," or voice activation. Actually, my phone's going crazy. 1 second, uh, and the app activates, and then that notification is served up to the attorneys who are available on the platform. So if you're an attorney listening to this, and you'd like to see TurnSignl in your local jurisdiction, we'd more than happily set up a time to talk, walk you through the different free and paid ways to get involved. But that user then is connected very similarly to how we're talking right now, housed within the TurnSignl app, and has a few moments while by the time you've safely pulled over at the side of the road, that attorney has been connected in. And, as the officers doing their due diligence, running the plates, understanding the situation, there's typically, 1 to 5 minutes in which they're assessing the situation as well on their side. And so in that time, you have some quality conversation with the attorney, are able to assess the situation and ultimately, be a silent passenger, or in the event that you need to assert rights or what have you, you have that opportunity to do so.
Fantastic. You all have clearly thought this out very well. Does the attorney engage with the police officer or other professionals on the scene?
We've had it go both ways. Most of the time, if it's a run-of-the-mill traffic stop, the answer is no. If there isn't an opportunity where the officer is asking, "Hey, what is that?" or turn off the app, at that point, you do have an opportunity to share a little bit about the situation from your vantage point. And with that, we largely do a lot of education before the call with law enforcement in that local jurisdiction. We'll go into from boots on the ground officers to chief of police and share with them what TurnSignl is and what it isn't. Our goal is for a TurnSignl traffic stop to be the safest traffic stop that officers involved in all day. And with that, that's accomplished in a couple of ways. One, this is somebody who's voluntarily recording the interaction of themselves as well. So there's a body camera on the officer, there's an internal camera on the user. And so between those two points and the commitment to get both the driver and the officer home safely at the end of every interaction, we want that officer to come to the interaction feeling that that's going to be the safest traffic stop they have all day. And inherently, both parties can kind of turn down the intensity volume and have a civil discussion and see a positive outcome on the backside of the interaction.
Got it. And this is recorded on the user's phone, is that right? Or where is yeah.
Great question. It is not actually physically located on the user's phone. However, it is in user's cloud. And so we don't have access to the video. The user is the sole person who has access to that video. And in the event that the user needs to access that video, they can do so. If the phone is damaged or disappears or what have you, they have access at a later date to be able to visit that video, and it self-deletes after I think 30 days or so.
I think that's so smart. That's one of the key features that I like about TurnSignl is that choice to store it in the user's cloud rather than on the phone. We all know what can happen to an actual physical device in those circumstances, and it's so important to have access to that recording at a later date if necessary. Well, let me ask you, where are you all available? In what jurisdictions, and what are your plans? Give us a tease on the roadmap going forward.
So we are live today. We're a Minnesota-based business. Our home is in Minneapolis, a market that has seen its fair share of police and civilian interactions go heinously wrong and become an epicenter for social change. From there, we've expanded into 8 markets. So Minnesota, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, California, Indiana. Let's see if I can do this. The list goes on and on. However, our intention is to be available nationwide as we expand 1 or 2 states every 15 days or so over the foreseeable future until we do reach that footprint of nationwide. And that's largely accomplished through the incredible attorney relationships that we are forming in states across the country, whether that is at a free or paid basis. We're happy to amplify those attorneys and serve them up opportunities to make lasting relationships within their local community. Additionally, we're fortunate in that we have opportunities to come on awesome podcasts like Courtroom 5 and be able to then amplify our mission and vision. And when we have that opportunity, we tell the story of attorneys that are working within the platform. We share a little bit about how they interacted with a driver, and then tell that story and amplify for folks listening at home. Maybe that spurs them to want to work with that local North Carolina law firm, right? And so that's how we are built. We have media appearances. We have these different opportunities to add value to organizations that we're working with. I'll plug one that's near and dear to Sonia and I's heart. The JTA is obviously an organization that's doing some incredible work. Additionally,
and that's the Justice Technology Association. Justice Technology
Thank
Association.
you. Where can that be found on LinkedIn or social media?
That's at justicetchassociation.org. Thank you for being an advisor, Damian.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Or for example, other nonprofits that are doing some incredible work. One that comes to mind that I just did an event with in Colorado is Lyric. They're doing know your rights content and teaching it in schools and doing de-escalation training, largely around what are what are the elements that students, young drivers on the road, can be aware of that they may not otherwise education be receiving in their family structure or otherwise. If we can start to help people understand the law early, it has ramifications down the road. So they're just doing some incredible work, and we were happy to support that organization in a local event in Colorado.
That's fantastic. Really happy to hear that. Damian, where can people find you online? And TurnSignl.
Yeah, so mostly on LinkedIn. If you follow TurnSignl on LinkedIn, you're going to find an incredible community of folks who are working diligently to see better outcomes on the roadways. So please do follow TurnSignl on LinkedIn as well as on Instagram. You can find me mostly on LinkedIn. So that would be the pathway of choice, but Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of the social media channels, follow TurnSignl.
Fantastic. Damian, thank you so much. Wishing you all the best of luck. We'll have you back as we watch your progress, and would love to speak with some of your attorneys as well to share their experiences with TurnSignl and with your customers. Thanks again. We'll have you on again soon.
Thank you, Damian.
That is fantastic. Great news there. Deborah, who won our challenge for yesterday, and what do you have teed up for us today?
Okay, the challenge was What should be a goal of an answer and affirmative defenses? It was a multiple choice question. The first choice was get and answer an affirmative defenses gets harmful evidence and evidence ruled inadmissible. Number two, asserts facts for all elements of a stated defense. Number three, shows a preponderance of evidence. And then number four, describes harm or damages. And the answer is, of course, it asserts facts for all elements of a stated defense. And the winner is LaShonda J.
Congratulations to LaShonda.
Congratulations. And on to today's quiz. How can a defendant win a case after a plaintiff has proven all the elements of their claim? How can a defendant win a case after a plaintiff has proven all the elements of their claim? If you want to participate in this quiz, send your responses to quiz@courtroom5.com.
That is great. And that is not a trick question, although it may be somewhat difficult.
Sounds like it.
Fantastic. Well, at this time, I am pleased to welcome to the show Magistrate Dwayne Pennant, the 26th District in North Carolina. Welcome to Who Wrote That Up for You, Magistrate Pennant.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. First question, I think your territory covers Mecklenburg County. That's the Charlotte area, I believe, in North Carolina. Can you share with us what you do as a magistrate there in Mecklenburg County? What is the role of a magistrate?
Well, for the most part, we see complaints from law enforcement or the general public that consist of victims of domestic violence, victims of violent crimes, people who are petitioning the courts for their family members or friends that are going through a mental crisis. And they need us to intervene. They're looking for solutions, looking for somehow to sort of mitigate what's going on. If it's not that, we're setting conditions of release for those who have been arrested and accused of a crime. We're conducting initial appearances in those situations. And other times we're just issuing warrants based on probable cause or criminal summons. On the civil side, you have magistrates that are doing small claims. You also have magistrates that are handling landlord-tenant disputes, summary ejectments, and occasionally they'll do weddings as well, and also IVC, which is involuntary commitments.
That is a broad range of types of matters that you handle there across the civil and the criminal. And I know Mecklenburg County is not one of our smaller counties here in North Carolina. You've got a fairly large brief there to handle. Do you have to be necessarily an expert in all of those types of law or?
Go ahead.
No. That was the extent of the question. It sounds like that's a lot for a single individual to know or to do.
I think you have to be apprised of the law. Yes, absolutely. I think we do try to hire attorneys, but for the most part, you do have to understand the statutes so that you can properly, I guess, find probable cause, properly know exactly what applies to a certain case. I know personally I have on my tab, I save all the statutes. So I'm constantly looking at the statutes and seeing exactly what's going on. And I tend to scrutinize a lot of the affidavits because oftentimes our systems can be abused. So it requires you to make sure you understand the law and that people are not trying to take advantage of that. Yeah.
I know on the criminal side, your defendants or people arrested will oftentimes have a lawyer, maybe not always, but oftentimes have a lawyer. And on the civil side, that's probably much less frequent, is my guess. Can you talk about just the representation that you see across those two areas?
So for the most part, in the criminal side, I don't see many attorneys at my level. It's initial appearance. On the civil side, my experience is much more limited because I have my colleagues that handle that. They do have sometimes pro se litigants, but they do have attorneys on the other side. I know overall there's a need for more representation. So you have a lot of people that try to do pro se. And I think Mecklenburg has done a great job of facilitating that with their safe. We have a self-serve center on the third floor, which allows people that want to represent themselves to go about that and there's forms and there's sort of a guideline, ways to go through that process. But in terms of attorneys, I don't see it much on the criminal side where I'm at, because I'm at the initial appearance stage.
Got it. Got it. So folks who are seeing you who've just been arrested may not need an attorney with them. That's and so does that require you, I guess, to like, what are the access to the courts issues that come up when you're dealing with someone who's just been arrested but who doesn't have an attorney? Does that require you to sort of help them understand what's happening in a way that someone who's represented wouldn't need?
Absolutely. I think we try to provide legal information, not advice in those situations. And it's important. I think right now we're having much more things in place that are sort of safeguarding their rights, where we interact with, I believe it is, if I can remember this correctly, it may be pretrial services. And they're allowed to sort of intervene in some part, but they're not legal services. Right? So we do have occasions where attorneys want to be there, where we're conducting initial appearance, but because of where we are in the jail, it's very difficult sometimes to get them there. So for the most part, we do, again, try to provide as much legal information as possible. And again, it's just initial part of it. They're only accused of a crime, so we do the best that we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know for a fact that Mecklenburg County does a fantastic job relative to many other places in the country about taking care of self-represented litigants. I'm somewhat familiar with your self-help center, in fact, and so congratulations on all that good work. But let me ask you though, if you were a criminal defendant, you've just been arrested and appearing before you, would you prefer to have an attorney at that point, or would it not be necessary for you?
I think it's always good to have an attorney. I think in the day and age that we're at right now, and people are not so aware of their rights, attorneys do facilitate that gap. So absolutely, I think you want to be able to have an attorney through all stage of that process. So I completely agree. I think one of the problems you find a lot too is that because you don't have that, a lot of people kind of give up their rights, and they lose sort of an edge, or lose sort of, again, they have their rights sort of stepped on. So you want to make sure you have that. And I think because a lot of people don't have access to that, it creates a disproportionate amount of people that, I guess, go into the system that could have been prevented if they had an attorney at that stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you being candid about that as well. Let me ask you then, what is, in your opinion, what is the importance of this issue of access, right? How does that impact your ability to get justice in your case? What is the importance of that access to the whole way you think about justice?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it at the simplest level, if you can't access your rights and remedies, you don't know how to hold someone accountable if they're stepped on, right? So for the most part, I think there was a quote, I forgot what it was, where it's equal justice for all. And if not everyone is being able to access this justice, then you really can't say that we're, as Americans, embodying that. So the concern is that if not everyone's accessing justice, then who is? And I think what we need to try to do more is to provide means to those that aren't able, whether it's migrant groups, minority groups, people that need to have representation, or if they can't, have resources like you or the self-serve center that can help them sort of access that justice. And again, justice, in my opinion, is a choice that we, the courts or the officers of the courts, make, right? So if you're not able to get that, then you're sort of being deprived of some of the rights that are afforded to you. So yeah. And again, another part of it too is that the greater access you have, the more confidence people will have in the system, right? So the fact that we're not able to have everyone get it and only some can get it because they can't afford it, it gives the impression that the system's only for those, not for everybody. So yeah.
That's absolutely, that's I appreciate you sharing that. Magistrate Pennant, thank you so much for appearing on Who Wrote That Up For You. Where can people find you online?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, but I think one of the things I would love to share with your folks is that if they go to www.nccourts.org, you can find, or .gov, either one, you can find more information about the self-serve center and more about magistrates and more about appointments for weddings, more for locations. But that's where you want to go to find out more about how to represent yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Congratulations again on the work that you all are doing in Mecklenburg County there. We appreciate you. We'll have you back on again soon.
My
Thanks so
pleasure.
much.
My pleasure.
That's a wonderful couple of conversations. As I think about the TurnSignl app and other traffic apps, trying to help people assert their rights during what can often be the initial stages of entering the criminal justice system,
Mm.
and running into Magistrate Pennant and colleagues. I think it's so important that we address some of these access issues. So at TurnSignl, you're able to get a lawyer that might keep you from having to go into court in the first place. And if you have to go to court, you certainly want to have someone like Magistrate Pennant who is able to share with you the information necessary to hopefully protect your rights. But that's certainly not a general statement that we can say that's available to people across the country. So just absolutely, happy to see this work being done for people who find themselves caught up in the justice system in one way or the other.
Yeah, it sounds, I could be wrong, but it sounds to me like a magistrate is a little bit freer to provide more information to pro se litigants than a judge in a higher court, or a judge in a court where where the cases are you see somebody more than once. There are multiple hearings, because typically, as I'm to understand, in magistrate court, there's probably just one hearing. But it sounds like they're a little bit more relaxed in terms of being able to help the pro se litigants, and I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've wanted to see other levels of courts be able to do. But there's one thing to be able to help pro se litigants as a judge, as a
Mm,
magistrate. It's another thing to be willing to,
yeah.
and so that's something I think the entire judiciary needs to take a note on. Borrow some lessons from good magistrates who are out here doing the work, and have that understanding about the importance of access to the issue of justice as a whole. All right. Well,
Right.
that's all we have for you today. Thanks, everyone, so much for joining us on Who Wrote That Up For You. As always, we will see you again tomorrow.
Are you feeling beleaguered, angry, or afraid, as if things are spinning out of control and you're powerless to stop them? It's easy to just let things slide and hope they don't get worse. But they often do get worse. The thing is, you're not powerless. Our courts belong to us, and their purpose is to give power to the powerless. Don't let your grievances pile up without redressing them. You can handle this in court. Or, if someone takes you to court, you can take them to school.